Let's hop into triple shot. First pump, Chase Claypool. Woke up to it this morning. Was at a bar fight in California about a week ago. TMZ Sports got video from somebody who was out there. They're outside of the bar, and you see Claypool kind of pushing, shoving, clearing things out, and then he drops a kick to a guy's head when he's on the ground. Not the best look on a Wednesday morning for a guy and for a team that has had a lot of bullshit and drama surrounding especially that position group, right? From TMZ Sports, a 22-year-old who just wrapped up a sensational rookie campaign was at the Wild Goose Tavern in Costa Mesa, California with some friends on March 13th when things popped off with another group of patrons. Sources tell us there was an issue involving someone throwing dollar bills at a woman inside the bar, which sparked an argument. I mean, you're not really going to get away with that, I don't really know what they were expecting there for, them just come shake their hand and say, hey, thanks for, throwing dollar bills at my friend here. And eventually things moved outside. We're told Chase was, all caps, not an instigator. But as you can see in the video, things started to get out of control, and Chase jumped into the action to help one of his buddies. NFL star gets in the middle of the action where one of the combatants was wrestling on the ground, and Claypool delivers a swift kick to the face. Eventually, Chase's pals remove him from the fracas, while people yelled at him to stand back and keep his distance. We're told both parties ultimately left the scene without further incident. The Costa Mesa police confirmed they received a call for a fight at that location, but when officers arrived, security told them the parties involved had already left. Nobody's been arrested or charged with a crime. Unclear if the guy who got kicked plans on taking action, but people close to Chase tell us he was just trying to protect his friend in a chaotic situation like anyone would do. We reach out to Claypool for comment, but so far nothing back. And they just give us stats. So, I mean, that was last weekend. That was the 13th. That was what a lot of people were celebrating St. Patty's weekend with. And, I mean, this was happening, I'm sure, a lot of places across the country. And I'm not going to sit on, like my buddy Dave Damashek would say, sit on Mount Pius and look down on this judgment of Claypool being a 22-year-old kid who's a millionaire, who's an NFL star, who had his life changed immensely in the last year, and is out with his buddies and doing what a 22-year-old would do on a St. Patty's weekend and having fun and enjoying some drink. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to sit here like I'm sure a lot of the people in the Pittsburgh media, and some older folks and some people make it out to be. Again, is it not a great look? No. Does he have to start realizing more self-awareness in situations like that where you're like, hey, I know that I'm just a 22-year-old kid and I'm doing what other 22-year-old kids would do, but at the same time, you're not just another 22-year-old kid. You're a kid who scored 11 touchdowns in the NFL and popped off his rookie year and gained a supreme following and is playing for one of the biggest sports franchises in the world. And I think they don't have to be mutually exclusive. I think one hand, you can sit here and not be on Mount Pius and look down and talk about how much of a diva he is. But then also at the same time, like I just said, understand that this needs to be a learning experience for him. And he needs to know that he's not just like every other 22-year-old. He can do what 22-year-olds do, but he's not just like every other 22-year-old kid. Anytime that anything like this goes down, anytime that he's out, anytime that anybody like him is out and about, hell, it's something that, to be honest with you, it's something that, is weird for me that I don't even realize sometimes. And, I don't play for the Steelers, but, the company that I work for and the amount of followers that I've been lucky enough to attain, sometimes it's easy for me to forget when I'm out at a local spot in Indy or wherever it is, and I'm with buddies and I'm just having a great time like everybody else in the place is doing. It's hard for me to remember that, man, one slip up, if I were to get in a fight like this or if something like that was to happen or I was to make a scene at the bar, somebody's definitely probably going to be whipping out their phone, and if at the very least they're going to be talking. So it's a weird balance. It's a weird transition for somebody like Chase to, he in his mind, he's just being in the right to break something up and then help his buddy. But again, he's got to realize he's not just 22-year-old Chase Claypool who's out in California St. Patrick's Day weekend. He's 22-year-old Chase Claypool who is an NFL star now and has made a brand for himself that everybody knows. That's kind of the downside of people like him and people like Juju and people like Odell Beckham and these guys who have really mastered, Gronk, these guys who have really mastered growing their brand and being such a public face because of how well they handle YouTube and social media and everything like that, they're putting themselves out there. They're visible. Everybody knows who they are because of that and what they do for a living. But then it's, a catch-22. Is it catch-22 or catch-2020? I still cannot figure out that fucking saying. It's a double-edged sword. We'll stick with that one because you do that. But then when you're out in a situation like this and you're just trying to, in your mind, do what's right and defend your friend because of how public you are and because of how everybody knows who you are now, and a lot doing because of how you put yourself out there, then they're automatically going to be whipping out their phone and they're going to do everything they can to try to get it on TMZ, to try to get shows like me to talk about it, to try to rile up the Pittsburgh media. So, I don't think that this is something that I don't think this is something that what people have already seen on Twitter and especially in Pittsburgh are going to make it into. Yes, should he have not kicked somebody on the ground? Absolutely shouldn't have done that. Should he add more self-awareness to be able to say, hey, I'm going to try to break things up. I'm going to try to be here for my friend, but I'm not going to take actions to put me in the worst kind of light? Yes. But at the same time, I don't think this is something to where you have to say, oh, man, now we're on a downward spiral and he's going to, cause problems in the locker room and he's going to be a distraction. I'm not saying any of that. I totally disagree with that. The dude was the best deep threat, the best playmaker the Steelers had on offense this past year as a rookie with no training, no OTAs, no offseason at all, not a normal offseason coming into his rookie year. I can only imagine what he's going to do. Hopefully, if things get back to more of a normal offseason and he continues to grow into that role. But I just think, somebody told me one time that there's too much or in the world. It's either this or that. One thing or another. There needs to be more and. I think this is a perfect example of and. Like I said, he was in the wrong for doing what he's doing. And also, it's a learning experience for him to be able to say, okay, I understand that I'm not just college kid Chase Claypool or some guy like my buddies who, frankly, no one cares if they get into a bar fight because there's plenty of bar fights going on around St. Patty's Day weekend all across the country. But they do care if it's Chase Claypool. That's all I'm saying.